And our kids are getting worse and worse. They're falling further behind in knowing how to manage themselves in reality. And they're actually getting quite gifted at managing us. We become the custodians of their reality. And when we do that, we interfere with their natural development. You want your kids to learn how to play in reality. Really, by the time your kids leave high school, I'd like to suggest you want them to have a particular attitude towards the big world out there. One which is playful, but wary. Playful, looking to the real world as a potential place for engagement, excitement, interest, and wary, realizing that if I'm not careful, bad stuff will happen. That's the anxiety piece. And this is where we have a bit of an epidemic, where we have more and more children who don't leave our homes with this playful but wary attitude towards the big world out there.
If we're serious about innovation in education, we have to be willing to change everything. Not just the low-hanging fruit, not just the single variable, not just lengthening the school day and doing everything else the same. We have to be willing to question all of the assumptions. What if school was the best 7 hours of a kid's day? How about you wake up Monday morning and ask yourself, how do I make this the best 7 hours of the kid's life? We need to create environments that are coercion-free, where children do what they do because it matters to them. And we need to remove all of the stakes. I wrote an article called Everything I Learned About Reading Instruction, Everything I Know About Reading Instruction I Learned from Oprah Winfrey. And it was based on the thesis, the question of how is it that Oprah Winfrey can get millions of housewives to read Toni Morrison and you can't teach kids to read? You remember when you were in school, reading was something you were taught until you could read? Now it's something we teach from cradle to grave, apparently, and no one learns to read. We had kids who were illiterate, who were desperate not to be, and kids who we were told were illiterate who weren't. And if we said to the kids, read a book, any book in our wondrous library, and create some artifact about that book, demonstrating you had read it, you can invite your friends to a pizza party we're going to have. And some of the kids said to me, well, I don't like to speak in front of others. I said, well, great, fine, don't come. Every kid read, every kid talked. They were part of the community of practice of readers. But if we had graded or ranked or sorted these children, we would have created a barrier that would have required a kid who was reading Dr. Seuss when other kids were reading Melville to feel self-conscious about where he was, and he wouldn't do it. We can have high standards without standardization.
An educator outside of Boston, her name is Susan Ohanian, and she calls school reform, she says school reform is grandiose, global, and gutless. Right? And what she means by that is that it's broad strokes paintbrush of things that everyone can agree with, but no one actually knows what to do when you read them, right? They're things that we can all sort of have head-nodding agreement on, but they don't specify anything or take on any current conditions that we actually care about. But there are many educators, including probably a lot of people in this room, who want more than that, right? They want teachers and students to be able, they want teachers to be able to teach students not only the skills of things like reading and math, but the meaning, the connection of those skills to their role in life, like the ones that people on Road Trip Nation might discover. In other words, they want students not only to know how to read, but to know what's worth reading, right? Although parents and teachers say they want kids to be deep, critical thinkers, many education policymakers seem mostly focused on making sure kids are tested.
There's no doubt in my mind there is a lot of racism in this town.
They've seen things that hopefully we never have to see.
I came here for the money to be rich.
A good percentage of this town, it's immigrants, you know. You name it, we have it here, you know. That's Brooks.
The most important challenge facing schools in the 21st century, I think, will be finding the right balance between our desire for measurement and accountability and the amazing technological proliferation in a context of a dynamic, capitalist, multicultural, globalized economy. So trying to figure out how we make sure that children are learning and finding a way to capitalize on the new technologies that children are using at a dizzying rate without either romanticizing the technologies, because they can be very distracting. There's lots of information up on the World Wide Web that is erroneous, and yet at the same time, the potential for exponential growth of knowledge through the new technologies, and for understanding complex phenomena like photosynthesis or cell bonding in ways that children have had a hard time to before because they just couldn't envision it. We have so many possibilities now through technology to really ignite the learning of children.